What's up? So I'm making this video as a guide to my Vran Train Choo deck. The main reason is because I don't really want to write a guide. That sounds like a lot of work, and I'm a terrible writer anyway. So this just seems easier to me. This is a consume monster deck. Its main focus is a Vran and Ericus train. If you're not familiar with how the cards work, every 2 turns, a Vran will eat something that's on its row. So we're going to be playing the Vran only on the ranged row for the most part. There is some flexibility, but it's incredibly situational and a bit of a high level type play. But so I won't even go into it. Use your own judgment, but for the most part, this deck, you're only going to play it on the ranged row. The way Behemoths work is every time a monster absorbs strength, which a Vran is doing every 2 turns, it spawns an Ericus, which is really cool because the interaction between Vran and the Behemoth makes it to where every time a Vran eats an Ericus, which is these little spider things, right, that these guys spawn, every time a Vran eats one, it'll spawn another one, just because that's the way that Behemoths work. So you will basically have an endless train of food for the Vran to get super fat on, and it'll be great. And then they'll be bloated and lazy and couch potatoes, but you know, who cares? They're gonna be strong. So that's the main idea behind the deck. We have a lot of things in the deck to protect the Vran train because all of the strength potential is basically going to be inside of these 6 cards. And it'll be in the neckers as well, but the neckers will be incredibly weak if you don't get the Vran train going. So the deck is very dependent on these 6 cards. Right now, we're in a very control-heavy meta, so it's very necessary to put things like Quen in the deck, or Operator. They protect the Vran train. Okay, so we've talked about the Vran train itself. We need to talk about how to start the Vran train. The way that you want to start the Vran train is you're going to have to consume something to spawn an Ericus before you put down a Vran warrior, because a Vran actually eats whenever you put it down on the row. So you want it to eat an Ericus, which will spawn another Ericus, and then the train has been started. So you actually have to eat something before that in order to start the train, unless you have something on the ranged row. And in this case, the only ranged row that we have is the Operator and potentially the Chimera, but the Chimera actually starts the Vran train itself by consuming. More than likely, the only thing you want to eat with the Chimera is a Crone, unless you're in the second round and you want to pull out another Necker with the Chimera. You can also pull out a Necker with the Quen, because the Quen can eat a Necker. The way that interaction works is that every time a Necker dies, it pulls out another Necker from your deck. So you can actually eat a Necker with the Chimera to start the train. You probably don't want to do this, but if you have to, you can eat the Necker with the Chimera and spawn another Necker. You probably don't want to do that to start the train itself, but you can do that for a lot of strength gain later on. You can also use the Catachan to start the train, and you can also use the Quen to start the train. The Operator also starts the train, like I said before, because you can play the Operator and then you will copy a Behemoth 90% of the time, and then you will eat the Operator with the Vran, and that in itself will start the train. So those are the components of the train. You have your Behemoths, you have your Vran, and then you have your train triggers, which are all these 4 cards basically. You can actually, if you're in a situation where you don't have a train trigger, but you have a lot of components of a train and you have the Caretaker, you might be in a situation where you can Caretaker a ranged unit from their graveyard and then eat it with the Vran to start the train. That's another clever way that you can work around it. Usually you don't want to use the Caretaker in that way, but if you have to, you have to. So that is another option. All right, now let's start talking about some other cards. I think most of these are pretty explainable or self-explanatory. The Neckers, you want to mulligan them immediately because you're not going to need them till the end of the game. They're going to be low strength. There's no reason for you to have them in your hand. Another reason for that is because we only have 10 bronze cards. Now, that's really good for us because most of these bronze cards are really useful to rally. We have 3 rallies with Dagon, so assuming you don't need to clear skies with Dagon, or you're not trying to weather somebody at the end of the game, which is always an option with Dagon. Such a good card, actually. But I have like weird sinus things. So you can always rally out. You almost always are able to rally out something, a piece of the train itself, a Vran or a Behemoth. And in the instance that that doesn't happen, you'll get a Necker, and then or the Ekimara. But all of these units are good to rally. So 2 First Lights is actually really strong in my deck. 3 First Lights, including Dagon. Okay, and I think that's it. As far as the train goes, that's basically it. The operator is super useful in the train. We need to, so in order to get maximum potential strength, we need the train to be protected, and we need it to be moving forward as much as possible. We do not want the train to stop. So that's what Quen is for. You basically always Quen a Behemoth. The way that this works out is that Vran have 5 base strength, but as soon as you place them down, they're going to eat something. So minimum, they're going to have 8 base strength, assuming that the first thing they eat is an Ericus. If you start the train with the operator, you're going to have 11 base strength. So the Vran are actually way tankier than the Behemoths. 8 strength is 1 more than Thunder. So it's actually pretty strong. Thunder can just kill Behemoths, which is unfortunate, but that's why we have Quen. So yes, so you always Quen Behemoths, and you always operator Behemoths as well for the same reason. In some situations, you can operator a Vran. You sort of have to be very careful with that, though. If you only have 1 Vran, maybe you want to operator another Vran, and you have 3 spiders. But right now in this control meta, even if you have 3 spiders and 1 Vran, it might still be more valuable to operator a Behemoth, because your Vran is going to be just going to be tankier. You also have to watch out for Cleaver or Ox, because they will lock down a Vran instead of killing it. So maybe there's an argument for operating a Vran there. But yeah, the operator also has this really awesome interaction with the caretaker itself. If there's nothing in particular you want a caretaker out of somebody else's graveyard, you can operator a Behemoth, and if they play the Behemoth, and you go into the next round, and you have, say you have a Vran left in the next round, you can actually caretake out your Behemoth from their graveyard and start a train again in the 3rd round. A 3rd round train isn't going to be that strong, but it is still strong. It's definitely not going to be as strong as like a 2nd round train, unless you didn't go all out in 2nd round. If you go all out on 3rd round, then caretakering out another Behemoth is so strong. That's potentially 5 Behemoths that you get to play with. So operator is super useful in this deck. And that's it for the train itself. The Karen, I should mention the Karen. The Karen is super strong. It eats 3 units. You usually want to eat, if you're afraid of getting scorched, you can eat a really strong unit. It's not bad to just eat ranged units. If you have a Crone on the board, you probably don't want to eat it. The reason why is because after you play the Karen, if you're not at 20 or more strength in the back row, you probably will be after you play your Karen. And people will just Gigny all 3 of your... If you have 3 Behemoths out, people will Gigny all of them, and they will just die. So if you have a Crone or something in the back row, you probably just want to leave it there. Outside of that, you can also Karen and Necker. If you want to pull another Necker from your deck, that is an option. Yeah, okay, so that's it for the train itself. There's an argument for leaving Karen for the last round, to protect from things like Scorch or maybe Pavetta. If they have D-Shackle, they can still do it to you, potentially, but it's kind of a gamble. So that's it for the train itself. Let's talk about Caretaker really fast. Basically, your Caretaker targets are, if you're playing against Northern Realms, you want to Caretake Priscilla for card advantage. If you are playing against Scoia'tael, you could probably mulligan Caretaker. It's probably useless. If you're playing against NG, you can probably mulligan Caretaker again, because uh, there's not that much you can get out of NG. You can get their 11 strength knight. What you do not want to get is a rot tosser, because they will just res it back from your graveyard. So generally don't make that mistake. They'll literally, the last thing you want is for NG to have more rot tossers. Yennefer is like really strong right now. Generally though, she's not as strong as the Vran train itself. You get much more potential out of the Vran train than you do out of Yennefer. At least consistently get more potential out of the Vran train than Yennefer. So Yennefer is mostly for tanking things like Radovid or Vernon Roach or Yorvith. She's literally a distraction. People are so afraid of her, and rightfully so, that they will use control on her, which is good for us, because we do not want them to use control on the train. We want to run them out of control, and that's what Yin is good for, as well as just doing Yin things. Crones are just really strong right now. They're really OP. Basically every first turn you want a Crone. So you basically play a Crone, you thin your deck, and then you pass, because they have to waste a lot of cards to catch up to the strength usually of a Crone, and then you've also thinned your deck. So it's super strong. You get card advantage out of it. You lose the first round almost immediately every time, but that is totally fine for this strategy. Also, if you have Avalash, you play the Crones, you play Avalash, then you pass. That's it. That's what these cards are for. Crones are also super awesome for the Catachan to eat if you don't have a stronger unit. Yavin and Stennis are awesome to eat as well. I don't think you want to eat the level 8 Crone, just because of the way Scorch works out with the Vran. The way that Vran work is that they're going to end up with 8 strength, 11 strength, and then 14 strength. So if you use the Catachan to eat the 8 strength Crone, it's going to be 14 strength. So if they're looking for that, then they can Scorch your Catachan and your Vran, which is bad. So you probably don't eat the 8 strength Crone. Hopefully you don't come down to a situation where you tied or something, or you lost by 1 point, and then you feel bad because you didn't eat the 8 strength Crone. But generally don't do that, I don't think. So Crones are great for those 2 reasons. Huge card advantage, thinning decks, Catachan target as well. Alright, now we have First Lights. I already talked about them a decent amount. They're super good for Rally. Rally is really good in my deck. Clear Skies, as far as weather monsters go, oh man, it's really hard. It's really hard. I basically have one way to beat weather monsters. You can't do the Vran train on them. The entire concept of this deck is a little ruined. The only way I can think of to beat weather monsters is actually to Operator of Vran, Quen of Vran, and then play on the back row. You want to play the Crones first round, then you Quen of Vran, and then you start eating Crones with the Quen of Vran, right? And then you store all of your strength on a Vran, basically, and you basically manipulate it to where you keep a Vran for the entire game, and you get as much strength on it as possible. If they try to weather the back row, you clear it with Dagon. You want to eat the Vran as soon as possible. Quen is also super useful for this strat. You can eat the super strong Vran in the last round to protect from things like Scorch. The only way that they win is if they have Deshackle and Weather, or Deshackle and Scorch, whatever. In that situation, they probably don't have enough strength, because Weather monsters is not really about building a lot of strength. It's about denying you strength. So yeah. So with the Clear Skies nerf, you just play on one row. You play on the back row with your Vran, and you eat everything with 1 or 2 Vran, and then you keep it. And that's the best advice I can give for weather monsters. Besides that, this deck is very usable against everything else. As far as D-Bomb goes, the only reason this card is even in my deck is because of the popularity of dwarfs right now, and Skellige Axemen to some extent. Some people still play Skellige Axemen in ranked, so this is like super useful. If you top deck this against either of those 2 strategies, you just, most of the time you auto win. You just save it to the last. You basically auto win those against those matchups. it also has a really interesting interaction with Bork. You can make him silver and then swallow potion him, and he'll usually kill himself. He's 7 strength plus 8. That's 15. Nope. Is he 7? I think he's 5 strength. Nope. I think he's 7 strength. Okay, if he's 7 strength, that's 15 strength on him. So hopefully you don't have something higher than 15. Even if you do, it's probably still worth to kill him. They can res him with Ninika. If you have 2 swallow potions, you can do it again. If they play him at the end of the game, then resing him with Ninika is not going to be an issue for you. Which a lot of Radovids do play Bork at the end of the game. So you can actually just kill Bork with this combo. Also, swallow potions, if you don't have D-bomb, you can still swallow potion units on their side if they do play units on their side. I feel like half the time I fight Radovid control and they just play like the only thing they have on their side is like Roach or something. But yeah, I think I went over everything in the deck. If you don't have D-bomb, I think Toad is a good substitute for it. I used to run Toad. Toad starts the train. It also deck thins. The biggest issue with Toad in this deck is that it doesn't really have anything to eat. The only thing it has to eat is Crones, really. So you kind of want to top deck 2 Crones, basically. Which is, it's unintuitive to do it that way. But you want to use 1 Crone to muster the other Crone, and then use your Toad to eat the last Crone, which thins the deck as much as Crones does, but it also uses your Toad. And then Toad is also a potential trigger for the train. So if you don't have Crones like that, you can eat the Echimera or the Catachan. You usually want to eat the Echimera unless you need it for Rot Tossers. So if you're fighting NG, do not eat your Echimera. If you're fighting Skellige, it's kind of hard. You kind of want to keep your Catachan so that you can eat things out of their graveyard, important things. You also kind of want to keep your Echimera just in case they play Blue Boy. So the Toad has an issue with not exactly knowing what to eat. You usually don't want to eat a Necker, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you don't have a choice but to eat a Necker, because you definitely don't want to eat your train itself. So if you do play Toad, you're just gonna have to like figure out how to play around it. I took Toad out of the deck and it seems fine. But right now, this is the state of the deck. I think it's in a really good place right now, especially with this meta. I've gotten really high rank with it. I've gotten 39-22 is the max rank I've gotten so far with it. I only play this in ranked right now. Because it's my baby, and I want to make it as competitive as possible. I don't want to play a different deck right now in ranked. So this is the deck. This is the extent of it. I'm gonna play 1 game I'm gonna record 1 game so that you can see the idea, and yeah. So I hope you have fun with this deck. It's a lot of fun to play. In my opinion, it's way more fun than Control or Weather. It's not about denying strength, it's about adding strength. And I really like that a lot. And you can just watch them, you can watch the train just go and just have a lot of fun, just like passively generating a ton of strength on a guy. But yeah, I like this deck a lot, and I've put a lot of work and effort into it. So I really hope you enjoy it. And now let's get on to the game. So we have Yinkon for Radovid. We have a Quen sign, which is super good against this. We got Operator as well, and we got 2 parts of the train. So this is actually like a really good, and we got Caretaker. Okay, it's actually like a really good roll so far. Swallow Potion is probably useful, but man, this is like super good RNG for us, right?
Soon, sisters, very soon.
Uh-oh. Trouble approaches.
And usually I pass now. It's kind of difficult. This actually looks like the other Radovid deck people are running right now. I could drop Yin and just like try to bait it out immediately. If I do drop Yin, that might give me a guarantee to win. But I kind of want to save Yin for the train itself. I also kind of want to keep baiting his cards, so we can just use Quen. We're still above him, so he still has to play cards. He can't just pass here. Hopefully he plays a Reaver Hunter. If he does, then we can just pass.
I told you so, you idiot.
Okay. Maybe this guy
Salutations.
is not running Reaver Hunters. I'm sure he is, right? He might have just not gotten them. Okay, I think it's still okay to pass. We have card advantage. And yeah. We'll bait Yin. He's gonna play Siri next round probably to try and maintain some sort of card advantage. But we'll just drop Yin immediately. Hopefully he plays Radovid. If he doesn't, he could pass. Alright, we got Soul Potion, that's super good. And another part of the train. Alright, we're in like a really good place here.
I'm not afraid.
We're in a super good place. We might hold Yin for the last round. If we're planning on starting the train, we really need to use Yin.
Welcome, chosen one.
We really need to use Yin. We don't want him to use Radovid on the train itself, basically. Okay. Just waiting for him to pass mostly. Oh, and he used Priscilla. Alright, we're gonna drop Yin now, but only because he dropped Priscilla. I like really want him to pass now.
There'll be nothing to pick up when
Because we
I'm
can
done
grab
with
Priscilla
you.
with the Caretaker.
To the dungeon with it.
Okay, cool. It's not bad to start the train early. We have enough to start another train in the last round as well, which is pretty cool. If you start a train early, if you're like afraid that they're gonna pass and they're
You
trying
one
to
of us
pressure
or
you
not?
into like not committing to a round, it's okay to commit to the round anyways, because like you can just the earlier you start the train, the stronger your neckers are gonna be. So you.
Let's show him what real.
Oh, he actually
art
bounced
is.
Priscilla. Interesting. Yeah. So it's not that big of a detriment if you start the train early and then they end up passing. Oh, nice. We're gonna have a pretty strong Priscilla in the last one. Is this seriously 8 base strength? So he bounced out Decoy and he also spores it. That's pretty funny. I don't think it's. I'm not sure. I think we're gonna keep like one Behemoth and one Vran, potentially, because there's no way he wins this round. We're basically just waiting for him to pass. The reason why I put the Akimura on the middle row is because if he kills a spider, my Behemoths still have something to eat. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. They can't just stop it with the spider. The bad thing is if they do kill the spider,
Salutations.
my Vran will actually eat each other, which is bad. Only because the Akimura is so strong. And I didn't eat the Crone because I'm like low-key afraid of getting Gignied in the back row. I don't want that to happen, basically. So we're committing the full train here. It's a little unfortunate. We're just gonna have to rally up a Necker in the last round to hopefully win. Or Priscilla. I'm gonna hold on to this last Vran because if I do get a Necker, I want to pull out the other Vran.
What do you want?
We are in a bit of an awkward situation where we don't want to use any of these cards. So I'm actually gonna rally and hope for a Necker. You shouldn't need Weather against this in this matchup because you should just be able to overpower him for the most part. Okay, all right, that's really good. We got the Neckers, so hopefully he passes now. If he has Bork, he'll pass now for sure because he needs 3 cards to play Bork. I guess he can play a card and then pass because he's gonna get an extra card. So we will see. I might just pass here. It's a little tricky and a little scary to pass at this point if he doesn't pass first, but he did pass, so we're good. So this is a really good game. It exemplifies the Vran train. It also shows how you deal with control. So we got Quen and we got Operator, and he tried sort of to stop the train, but he wasn't successful. We also used Yinkon to bait Radovid. Which is so funny that that's how I use her, but that's how I use her. Okay, we're in such a good spot with the D-bomb top deck. We can actually get Bork to kill himself now. So we'll grab
how
Priscilla.
about
We always
going to
grab
Gwent?
Priscilla, and he was a sweetheart, and he made her super strong for us. So there's that. So you basically always eat the highest one. If they play Stennis, you can just like be stupid strong. It's so funny. So good. Alright, so there's Bork. So we can play the Vran. And then we have 2 turns until Bork goes, right? So on one turn we'll D-bomb him, and on the other turn
There'll
we'll
be
swallow potion
nothing
him.
to pick up when I'm done with
And then
you.
we'll laugh at this guy's face. This will actually get him to... Oh crap. I actually might be wrong about this. Oh, no, this is perfect. So he Scorched me, which is so good for us. So 7 plus 8 is 15. And now he kills himself. And then we feel good. Because there's
I'm a medic. I tend to know what I'm doing when
no
I
way
suspect
that he can beat
something.
us now. There's no way. You can actually res Bork, but it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna matter. There's not enough turns. Giddy. So this was a really great game. So we'll put this in the YouTube video. It really shows. I think it really shows a really good part of the deck, because Radovid control decks are basically built to counter my type of deck, but it didn't. It didn't counter it because we have enough. Protection. So yeah. So I hope you like the deck. It got me really far. It was my own idea, and I'm really proud of it. So yeah. So I don't know. I put a lot of work into it, but yeah. I hope you like it, and yeah. Have a good day.